All right, today's the day. Welcome to round one of the 2024 MLB draft. The Cardinals have a top 10 pick for the first time since 1998, which is wild. We're going to be watching the draft today, breaking down the picks as they go through, breaking down what the Cardinals do at number 7 overall. Really excited for this today and excited for all of you who joined us on this episode of Dealing the Cards.
A few moments later.
I don't think there's anyone else on the board. The Cardinals are looking at their board right now, and it's just JJ Wetherholt on its own.
I hope so.
And he will be the pick. I think he
has to be.
Right after the Royals made their selection, Randy Flores is on the phone. All right? The pick has been made. It's Wetherholt.
Sandy, go ahead. I know you had something.
Yeah, so, I just want to ask you, Kareem, obviously JJ Wetherholt is a guy that people are more excited about than some of the guys that have already gone ahead of him. Right, he's ranked as a top 4 consensus prospect. If the Cardinals get him, where does he jump into the top 100 for people that are a little less in touch with this? How does he rank among baseball's best prospects if he's a Cardinal in 5 minutes?
I think he would jump himself into the top 20, top 25. And I think
it's a massive infusion of talent into the system.
Yeah, I think I would have him as the number 1 prospect in the Cardinal system, to be honest.
Okay. How many guys within this top 10 do you think are like top 100 prospects in baseball? I meant to ask you that at the top because it depends on the draft, right? When you have a guy that jumps in, but how many of these guys do you think are that talented?
5, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I'd put him as one of the top 5.
Okay. And you think he's in potentially the 20, which I think by the trade deadline, we'll probably see, if not a little bit before the rankings get updated, we'll see where Wetherholt or someone like that ends up going. But I'm so ready to send the tweet out and be like, they got him. But we'll have to see here. So we do have another guest we want to jump on or bring on here.
They definitely got him. Look at Kareem.
No, I have no idea.
Yeah, the Royals pick hasn't been announced yet, so I'd be surprised if it's leaked already. But
it's been announced. I'm sad. Okay. I'm depressed. This is pain.
Looks like we've still got Ethan loading in here, so we'll throw him on the stream once he's fully loaded in. But
I see. The thing is, Caglione, I was convinced that we weren't going to get him, and then he fell to 6, and I was like, oh, we might have a chance.
Yeah, we do need to pour one out for Andrew here because I do feel bad. I honestly hoped that he would go so high that it didn't tempt you because I just didn't think it was going to happen. But here we are. Hey, he is a Royal though, so. You can go watch some games if you want. It's a little easier to get there than
Andrew. You can do it.
I would be curious. Kareem, do you think there's any organization, do you think someone like Kansas City will let him experiment with two-way, or do you think most organizations are probably out on that?
No chance. I think he's a first baseman. I would honestly put him in right field, to be honest. He's an exceptional athlete. Obviously has a strong throwing arm.
Apparently it's confirmed.
We got him. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
3 for 3.
Oh,
yeah, everyone say he wasn't going to be available.
Kareem every year.
Kareem on it every single time. Oh, Robert Murray put it out. Yep.
Let's go.
Wetherholt's the pick. Oh,
how does he do it? How does Kareem get it?
Wow.
Right, every
3
year.
for 3.
Oh man, someone just said I'm having hamstring for dinner. What on earth? Okay, so if you're just joining the stream, you've been in for a little bit. JJ Wetherholt is at least reportedly the pick for the Cardinals here at 7. You always want to hold out until that stuff happens, but oh my goodness, this is crazy. Kareem, we're to let Kareem calm down for a second because I'm excited. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with myself. I thought I was gonna be so disappointed with the pick tonight. They got him. Kareem, tell us more about his player profile, right? What are your scouting grades on him? What is the type of player the Cardinals are adding to their system here?
Yeah, so the first thing that stands out with Wetherholt, he's got a 70 hit tool. I think the best hit tool in the class. This is a guy that makes so much contact inside of the strike zone and outside of the strike zone. The plate discipline is unbelievable. He doesn't chase outside of the strike zone. He swings at a decent amount of pitches in the strike zone. The contact quality is exceptional. It's not he didn't barrel the ball as consistently as a guy like Travis Bazzana, but nor did he get it to his pull side enough. But the raw potential with his power is there. That's a 108 90th percentile exit velocity. This is a guy that played shortstop this year, handled his own at shortstop. I do think second base is most likely his eventual spot just because he's got a fringy arm. But other than that, this is a guy that's just a tool shed in terms of his ability. And yeah, couldn't be happier. At the start of the draft, I really thought Wetherholt was going to go 1. That didn't happen. And he's a Cardinal now. It's crazy.
Oh man! So there are going to be people who are going to see this pick, Kareem, and be super disappointed the Cardinals didn't get an arm. Why should Cardinal fans be excited about adding a bat like JJ Wetherholt to the system versus going out and getting, obviously Burns and Smith weren't available, so that's the first part. But say Smith or Burns were on the board here, and like it just in general, what is the point? What is the excitement level of getting someone like JJ Wetherholt in this class?
I can't even put words to it. This is a guy that should be a consensus top 3 guy on all boards. The only reason he's slipping here is because of a hamstring issue that he's had. And if it wasn't for that, I think he'd be going top 3 in this class. And yeah, I just can't believe it.
Oh man, this is insane. This is absolutely wild. I'm seeing some different messages in here about how they should have gone with a pitcher. Again, I don't really see one on the board right now that makes any sense to take at number 7 after Smith and Burns, especially with a guy like Wetherholt on the board here. And even if Wetherholt wasn't on the board here, like you probably still would go with Caglione or Nick Kurtz or Montgomery or Rayner over the next best arm here. Like I know Trey Yesevich is a pretty decent guy out there. There's some interesting high school arms, but none of them you would want to pick here at number 7. Derek Gold is also confirming JJ Wetherholt to the Cardinals. The pick is in. The Angels pick has already been like reported too. I guess the draft is happening like 5 picks beyond what we're saying already. Like every team is already like, okay, we're going. But hopefully we'll get Ethan in here soon as well. It looks like there's some little bit connectivity issues, but wow, this is wild. A left-handed bat here from West Virginia. Again, the guy just absolutely rakes. 2 years ago, which was one of the main reasons he was supposed to go 1-1 going into the year, was that he was a 331 force. Or sorry, 2 years ago, he had a 1300 OPS with a 449 batting average, elite bat tool. Again, this last year he had the hamstring injury, but 30-31, 472, 589. Even coming back from that injury, he's a beast. And here he comes. He's walking up to the stage. Oh, he's got like a cowboy hat on. What is this?
Insane amount of aura.
The aura here. I can totally see there's going to be like Cardinals gifts and like Cardinals Reek and all of them are definitely going to be tweeting out that image. But here's putting the Cardinal jersey on right now. Oh man, JJ Wetherholt. Man, there's some people in the chat who do not like this pick. I'm kind of surprised that people are hating on it this much. But
my God.
Man.
I just have to say, I understand why people want a pitcher in the draft because we've been bitten by the fact that the Cardinals didn't draft well on the pitching side for the last few years, but there's not a pitcher on the board that has anywhere near the upside of JJ. Even if we're just talking about best available, there's nobody else. Also, that is the need right now. The Cardinals system has good pitching. Quinn Matthews, Darlin Saladin, Tim Kentz, these guys are exciting. We need this in the system. JJ fits what we need. He's the best player available. And if you're talking about a guy who could have potentially been taken 1st overall, falling to at 7th, that's a good day. That's amazing. There's a reason that Cleveland wasn't at the top of the draft looking at these other guys people are suggesting. There's a reason they weren't looking at Cags. JJ is the pick. This is a massive win for the Cardinals.
Oh, man. I think it's also interesting, too, because, I mean, some people are going to look at this again. If you don't watch the MLB draft that often, you might be like, why on earth would it, like, if he was that good, why didn't he get picked earlier? Again, we brought up the hamstring stuff already, but there's also underslot issues, all that kind of stuff. But Ethan, let's go, man.
About time that my computer reception starts working. Holy moly, missed the pick and everything.
Hey, you still get to react with this, though. So if you don't know, Ethan Hannaford already is over at KMOX, does awesome content as well for his own podcast for the Lou and all this kind of stuff. But just let us know, like, JJ Wetherholt is now the pick. He's got his little bolo tie on. He's wearing the Cardinals gear. How are you feeling about JJ Wetherholt being a St. Louis Cardinal?
Well, I'll start off with I dig the cowboy hat, not because it's my style personally, but more so because you like to be able to rock it. You got to have a little bit of finesse, a little bit of style.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm digging that first and foremost. But you look at the profile of this guy, and I mean, if we're rewind a year back and you see this guy and where he's projected to go, and obviously the hamstring stuff. I don't know if I want to say necessarily concerning. But it seems like this is the kind of guy, right? I mean, he here at 7, it's a no-brainer. I mean, kudos to Kareem, because I mean, my whole thing going into today, the last several days, has been you look through all the projections that we've been seeing in the past several months, and the funniest part is that everyone's looks different. I mean, like, finding a consistent 1 through 10 from any of these people is almost impossible. So being able to, I mean, and once again, I don't know if I've seen, outside of Kareem, who's killing the game right now, I don't know if I've really seen anyone that is nailing these, like, from 1 through 7. So, I mean, kudos to what we've seen so far. Wetherholt, there's a lot to be excited about. I'm not going to lie, there was a part of me that was really hoping that one of those high velo guys would end up falling to us. Yeah. But just because that seems like something that is so opposite of something the Cardinals have had. So I'm not going to lie, it would have been nice for that to fall to us, but there's a lot to be excited about in JJ Wetherholt.
Yeah, honestly, like I'm kind of glad they're off the board at 7, because I think I would have felt like even more torn if there was like Burns and Wetherholt, which no way that was going to happen, or Burns or Wetherholt and Smith on the board. It'd been like, you could have had the pitcher, but Wetherholt seems to be like the guy here. Kareem, something I'm curious again. He's got to get into the system. We got to see stuff. So no one should really be talking ETA stuff with a guy like this at all yet. But do you expect Wetherholt to be a little bit more of a potential fast riser, or is he a guy that you might have to be a little bit more patient on? The Cardinal fans want, like 2025, we should not be talking about that. But like 2026, 2027, do you expect him to be a guy that, if things are going well, is already pushing for a debut in St. Louis? Or is this a guy that, even though he's a college bat, a lot of potential, a lot of talent already, might take a little bit to kind of get his feet underneath him?
I think Wetherholt's going to be one of the quickest movers in this draft class. You're talking about a guy that's got an unbelievable hit tool, very good plate discipline. I just think he has a lot of the skills you like to see from a guy that's going to be a big riser. And he has another thing with Wetherholt. He has the track record with wood bats performing at the Cape Cod League. So yeah, I think this is going to be a fast moving prospect. I don't think he's going to, we're seeing Chase Burns. He's played most of his year at single A following his draft selection. I think Wetherholt's going to be much faster in terms of development than a guy like Chase Davis.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Ethan, something I think people are going to be talking a lot about, and Sandy, Andrew, anyone chime in here, is that I think immediately people are like, especially if you're not super familiar with the MLB draft, people are going to see, the Cardinals picked an infielder. What does that mean for Nolan Gorman? Right? Or what does that mean for Brendan Donovan? Like, what are you going to say?
Like 7. Tommy Edmonds gone, and I was like,
so long, my friend. Anyway. This is insight, guys, as to who's getting traded at the deadline.
So, Ethan, what's your response to when you see stuff like that?
Well, my response is look at anyone in the last however many years besides Paul Skeens. Look at the track of how long it takes to be able to get to this level and to be able to legitimately compete at this level. It's a process. It's a long process. It's a several year at least process usually. So there's a lot down the road as to what could happen with those guys up the middle. I mean, if we're talking about 2020, if we really want to get into this, we want to talk about 2026, 2027, assuming that the roster or some of those core younger guys that we have now are still there. I mean, we're starting to talk about the time that Nolan Arenado's getting towards the end of that contract. We're looking at Nolan Gorman as a guy that came up as a third baseman. It is so far down the road, and there's so many different things that could happen. I mean, we've seen guys change positions based off of free agent signings. We've seen, so the key, the point is that Wetherholt has a ridiculous bat. He has great speed. Whether he ends up at short, at second, or for God's sake in right field, right now, doesn't really matter. It's more so the talent that the Cardinals have acquired in an offensive piece, I think, is what people need to be looking at.
Yeah. Sandy, what's your kind of thoughts right now on the Cardinals adding another exciting left-handed bat to their system here? Obviously, most of them are at the big league level. We do have Chase Davis coming up as well, Wimbencho. Like, there are some intriguing bats that are left-handed in the system right now. But what's kind of your thoughts on adding a guy like Wetherholt here to what they already have a collection-wise?
This is awesome. This is exactly what the Cardinals needed to do. This is exactly what the system needed. I couldn't be more excited about what we've got going on right now. I've thought for a little while that the Cardinals system is a little bit underrated. I'm not going to pretend they're a top 10 system, but these people that are consistently ranking them around 23 to 25 kind of feels like I've seen that a lot. I don't think that's fair, but I think this is the type of thing that the Cardinal system needs to jump up the rankings. JJ is a huge infusion of talent. And like I said, this is a place of need within the system. It would have been nice to grab an ace. Like, you always want to grab a position with real frontline starter type of upside. But that wasn't available. JJ was, and it's what we need. We need those left-handed bats. It's going to be really cool to see him at the major league level, hopefully really soon. Kareem's talking about how he could be a really fast riser. Like, there's nothing but positivity to have about this. This is a huge day for the Cardinals.
How does this affect Jose Fermin's legacy, though?
He's gone. And I want to respond to the people saying Gorman's gone. I think Ethan put that right. Like, we have no idea what the Cardinals roster looks like 3 years from now. The Cardinals have had a lot of turnover recently. That could continue. Now, like, they just have more depth. If the Cardinals want to go out and get a pitcher, that's something that now all of a sudden, if JJ comes in and hits well next year, maybe you can move Thomas Sajazi more easily. You're not worried about moving these infielders. At the same time, look at the Reds. The Reds like continue to go after these guys on the left side of the infield, and then they move them all around, and it's been successful.
Yeah.
People are laughing at the fact that they had Steer, Ellie, Noelvi Marte, too many guys over there that seem to be clumped up, but it hasn't hurt them. It's been something that's a benefit, right? You want to grab athletic guys who you feel like can play anywhere. And if JJ has to play at third or second, or maybe even see what he looks like in a corner outfield spot at some point, although I don't think that's maximizing his glove and his arm, that's something that they can do because he's athletic and he has the ability to do that. You're not locking yourself in with somebody who's a first base only type.
Yeah, that's the key there. I think you like too, is when you get a shortstop type, it's like with Nick Kurtz, if his bat's not playing, what other value is he providing you, right? And you don't have the flexibility to move a guy like that around. JJ gives you the flexibility that down the line, does Gorman need to move? Does he need to move? Does Wynn, Wynn's not moving off shortstop. That was dumb. But Donovan, you can move some of these guys around. And then think back to the 2020 draft, right? Like the Cardinals pick third baseman Jordan Walker. And Matt Carpenter was the third baseman of the St. Louis Cardinals right then. And then a year later, they have Nolan Arenado. And these things change. So to project today, that the Cardinals are going to have roster issues because of this pick it's not a accurate view of how player development usually goes with this and how team building goes. Again, we hope that Wetherholt's a fast riser and a guy that's going to be up soon, but most guys don't make it up within 365 days, even 2 years, right? A lot of these guys take some time to bake in the oven a little bit here too. But I do think it's really interesting that the Cardinals for a long time really lacked left-handed bats in their lineup. And Ethan, maybe this is something you can speak to a little bit. And now, you just go up and down the system here, Gorman, Donovan, Nootbaar, Wetherholt, Burleson, they have really invested in the left side of the plate here from a hitting perspective. What does this tell you maybe about potentially some of their shifts draft strategy wise and the kind of talent they've been targeting? And what does this kind of give you hope wise about the future of the Cardinals offense? Because they do need to find answers beyond Goldschmidt and Arenado going forward.
Yeah, I think that, it's really interesting. And Randy Flores gave a little bit of insight both on the TV and the radio broadcast this morning, and I'm looking forward to hearing some of his thoughts on the Zoom call coming up here in a little bit, just about what the process is in going for, what you're looking for and how much are you looking at what you're drafting right now compares to what you have on a major league roster. And I really don't think it's much. I really don't, because like we've talked about, so much can change. I'll say this, out of this group of five, I'm probably the one that knows and has the least amount of knowledge and information about the guys that are being brought in, the details behind the scouting that Randy Flores is doing. But what I can tell you is that they're not actively saying, okay, we can't pick this guy because there would be a situation with this guy on the major league roster. And what we've been talking about these last 2 minutes is the amount of separation that we see between the drafting and the amount of baking in the oven, like you said, that has to go along before things are actually happening at the major league level. What I can tell you is right now, the left-handed bats right now for the Cardinals, it's funny, even how we shift to what was it 2-3 years ago, and we were begging for the Cardinals to acquire one at the deadline, and now you look and it's almost like it's too much. Because now when you got Drew Smiley coming up out of the bullpen, you got no answer. So it has been a really impressive transition that is become a really big strength for the Cardinals. Obviously, going into the deadline whole other conversation, there's been people out there saying the hope is to acquire a right-handed bat. But we'll have to wait and see how they go about that direction. Kind of like I said, kind of a little bit of a separate thing, but regardless, seeing what Burleson, Donovan, some of these guys have been able to do, and their rise to the majors has been really impressive, and it's also shown a little bit of, like we talked about, I think the last episode I was on, like the slow crescendo of the Nolan Arenados, the Paul Goldschmidts, and these youngsters starting to make their way up and have more of an active impact on this roster.
Yeah, and then there's also things too that we don't think a lot about too, but it's like Donovan, Nootbaar, and Gorman all hit arbitration this next year. Like, we think these guys are young and controllable, but in a flash, like blink of an eye, they're in arbitration, and blink of an eye, they're hitting free agency. So you kind of have to revamp these. I'm not trying to act like any of those guys are going to be gone anytime soon, but you have to consistently think about who's next, even with some of these younger guys.
Right.
And then, to be fair, people are putting in there like, okay, you could trade X, Y, and Z. And it's like, there could be a day where the Cardinals, like Wetherholt works out. He's hitting like one of the best hitters in the minor leagues. It's like, okay, we need to fit him into this lineup. And we have all these left-handed bats. That's a great place to be in, instead of picking for need and going, oh, well, we need an arm, and so you're going to go and pick this guy who's less valuable. Go pick the best player available and figure it out later, whether it's fit him in another position, whether it is use Wetherholt as trade bait later, whether it is use Gorman or whoever it is. Like, it just increases what the Cardinals' options are later as well. So, Kareem, I'm interested to hear what you think of this. Obviously, we have not seen Wetherholt play have a single at bat of minor league baseball. So, like, it's fair to calm down a little bit. But, like, in terms of prospect pedigree, where would you rank someone like Wetherholt from any of the Cardinals prospects they've had in recent memory? And then with that as well, if you had to pick today, like, if you were to ranking these left-handed bats and who you want long-term, like what are the major league bats on the roster right now are you picking before you're like, I want the potential of Wetherholt?
Yeah, so I don't know if Wetherholt's like the caliber of like a Jordan Walker type of prospect, at least off jump right now, straight out of the draft. But he's got to be up there. I think he places number one in the organization right now, ahead of Tink Hens. And for your second question, how you asked how he compares with some of the guys that they have currently on the big league roster.
Yeah, like if you're thinking, and specifically the left-handed bats, yeah, Donovan, Gorman, Burleson, Nootbaar, like how many of those guys you're like, I'm taking the certainty I have with them right now before you're like, hey, I want to bank on the potential that Wetherholt has. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue against guys that have already had major league success. Right? Yeah. So I wouldn't, like a Burleson, for example, he's really burst on the scene this year. Donovan has been productive his entire career. Nolan Gorman, we know what he is when he gets hot. I don't know if I want to put JJ Wetherholt in that consideration just yet, because we haven't even seen him in the minor leagues. But he's a very talented guy and my personal top prospect in the system right now.
Yeah. And also, like, to your point about Jordan Walker earlier, Jordan Walker didn't start out as a top 5 prospect in all of baseball, right? Like, he got drafted. He was that high ceiling. We'll see what happens. Yeah. And then a couple years later, he bursts on this. He has a great year, high A or low A. And then obviously the double A year really propelled him up prospect boards as well. So there's probably an argument. I mean, we'll see what prospect rankings come out, but JJ Wetherholt's probably the highest ranked prospect they've had off the jump of drafting a guy. I don't even know since I'm trying to think of a guy that was really like a top 50, top 75 prospect upon being drafted that the Cardinals have gotten. Like Walker wasn't like that, even though he was really exciting. Obviously, Taveras was a signee out of the Dominican, so like he took a while to get it. Like there just isn't someone like that they've had. So it's really exciting to add something like that. this early on as well. So obviously we can keep breaking down this pick, and there's other picks going on too as well. The Seaver King, who Ben talked about earlier, just went 10 to the Nationals. Ethan, before we let you go, man, though, like the Cardinals split with the Cubs. They're 50-46 now, right? After finishing the first half. Last time we talked to you, I can't remember the state of the team, but it definitely wasn't this good. I think go for it.
It most definitely wasn't. Much better now. I want to say it had to have been in the first few weeks of the season, because things were still it was before the epic collapse, but it was so we hadn't hit the panic button entirely. It was still, this is a tough schedule, a tough April, and we're still in the range of what we were hoping for. But yeah, I mean, this team has turned it around in a lot of ways. Not to say that there aren't still some areas that need to be improved, but in large part, the starting pitching has gotten the job done. The bullpen has been phenomenal since day one. But the biggest difference has been that people are pulling the weight that everyone expected Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt to pull. Donovan has really turned it around. Alec Burleson's been phenomenal. Contreras coming back's been big time. I mean, I don't know if it's a coincidence that things started to turn around when Contreras went down. And I say that because I think that that was a serious, like, it has to happen at some point, guys. It has to happen. And so I don't know I don't think I would say that's much of a coincidence. I'd say the way that Pedro Pajes came up and started to work with the rotation, and Ivan Herrera was working well as well. I think both of those guys did a great job in the time that Contreras was out. But I mean, it's funny because you could ask any player on the team, what has been like the takeaways from this first half, because you could break it down into so many little pieces as to how we felt about the team. So it's not like there's a single, oh, well, this is what the team was, because it was never that at any point. So I mean, 50-46, I think if you're saying on opening day, if you're saying the Cardinals are 4 games over 500 at that point, at the All-Star break, I think a decent amount of fans are probably saying that's right in the area where they expected. But I can tell you this, I don't think a lot of fans were expecting to be 4 games over the 500 at Mother's Day. So what they've done from that point on has been very impressive. And I'll say this before I let you guys go. You look at this National League. It's not very strong right now. I mean, like, some of these teams that dropped absolute bank in the offseason are a little bit banged up. The Dodgers just having Yamamoto go on the 60-day. I mean, who are they even throwing right now? I mean, their rotation is not what anyone expected it to be. The Braves are down right now. I mean, the Phillies are the Phillies, but if the Cardinals are willing to be maybe a level above the expectation that people have for them at the trade deadline, things could get a little bit interesting, and perhaps we could be talking about a Cardinals team that is a legitimate contender to get into the pennant race. So we'll just have to wait and see, but it's going to be a fun remainder of July.
For sure. Well, Ethan, thanks for joining us for the pick, and we'll have to talk with you again soon, especially as things are ramping up for the stretch run. Again, it's at least a fun time to be watching Cardinal baseball, especially compared to Mother's Day. Oh goodness, we need like a better name for it, like Bloody Sunday or Bloody Saturday or something. Like it felt like the world was crashing down that day.
It's terrible.
So again, really thankful that you jumped on. We'll talk again soon, but again, you can, Ethan, plug your stuff on here so people know where to find you.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at ECHANN7, ECHAN7, and then I host a podcast, The Loose Sports Talk. Plenty of great guests on, and we're on social media at Loose Sports Talk _ Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you find your podcast. So be sure to go and check that out. And appreciate hopping on with you guys, and we'll have to do it again some point.
Yeah. See you, Ethan. Appreciate it, man.
See you guys.